Hello and welcome to Chatta Plays. Today we'll be playing Factorio. This is episode 5. So this video I decided to change it up a little. I'm doing a sped up performance because I ended up shooting like an hour and a half of video. So I didn't want the episode to be nearly that long, and I kind of started off wanting to get some work done in between episodes, and then I just decided to record the whole thing. So in this episode we'll be setting up stone production, green science, and fixing a power issue that you'll see a little bit later in the episode. So starting out, I'm just getting some stone bricks made, just to remember how the setup works. Grabbing some iron, making some inserters, the usual. I also set up production of a few simple things, one of them being gun turrets, because I'm going to be needing them in the next episode, where we're going to be going over military stuff. And then I also set up basic, or not the basic ammo, but the armor piercing ammo as well. I also went ahead and set up transport belts and splitters, so that I could just grab them from a box instead of having to make them in pocket. It speeds up the game by a lot, actually. Just trying to remember the recipes at this point. So it goes gears into transport belts, and then you need transport belts and iron to make the underground belts. Now I don't start making splitters yet because I do need green signs for those, and that's also something we'll cover in this episode, is the making of green electronics. And usually with the green electronics, I tend to put them on a belt, just because I use a lot of them, and especially in late game you'll be using a lot of them, so you want to leave a little bit of room so that you can double your production at some point. So now I'm just going through clearing out trees on our stone mine so that I can get this all worked up and together, and I think at some point I decide to go put the ammo and grenade production in, because this gets very tedious very fast. As you can see in the background, I'm just kind of researching things. I get military 2, which is the armor piercing bullets and the grenades, so that I can do this a lot faster. Pardoning a skip in the recording, I evidently got up to do something and let it keep recording, so it was kind of just me sitting there at that point. Looking around on the map, don't see any alien biters yet. That's pretty good so far. I haven't really picked any out on the map, so we're safe at the moment. I do start noticing that we have desert pretty much on half of our sides though, which is going to be an issue later on when we start expanding rapidly. So my technique for laying down mining drills is not any form of efficiency, it's just for the fastest mining possible. So I hold down the mouse button, start at the top, and just swipe my way down. It places the mining drills right next to each other, and the most coverage basically of the material, so it mines the fastest. Now this isn't nearly as efficient as most setups, but I tend to mine stuff really fast so that I have the materials, because especially when it comes to iron and copper, I always seem to be running out. And then later in the episode we actually run out of coal in the power section. As you can see, the grenades kind of just come in, clean stuff up real quick. You just drag them off your hotbar and then drop them. Ran out of bullets because I was shooting trees, because the grenades with the base damage don't kill the trees in 2 hits, they kill them in 3, and I didn't feel like wasting that extra grenade on the trees, so I decided to make some ammo just to shoot them, and add a couple more radars that end up biting me in the butt later when our power supply tanks, and I was not paying attention because I added a whole bunch of mining drills and a whole bunch of production factories, which wasn't a great idea. But at that point, I was thinking, oh, we're probably going to go to solar energy. Nah, we'll stick with steam engines for now. And that was right before I got all the green science set up. So with green science, you can go into solar energy. It does take a pretty large field area to get solar energy set up effectively, and you need lots of accumulators. Like, if you're setting up a basic system for me, like in-game with electric furnaces and modules on everything, in the tier 3 production factories, I'm usually looking at like 100 megawatts of use. So I need a pretty large solar field, especially with accumulators added on. I usually get up to about 1,000 gigajoules of power on the accumulators, and then I think with the solar panels I'm usually producing 75 to 80% of the power need. So here I am. I'm just setting up a normal furnace setup for the stone. I actually decided to do this one kind of like the steel, where I run a single belt down the middle, and then I put grabby claws to pull it off the line. Later on, I'll be adding stone walls and a concrete production facility to the end of it. That way we can have stone walls being made for us, and concrete, which gives you about 10 times as much stone use, makes you walk faster as well. So I end up using that a little bit later on. I did decide to expand the iron production a little bit more. I was just noticing that we ran out of iron pretty fast, and I was like, oh well, might as well expand it. So I go ahead and I expand the mining operation, resplit it all, run it onto 2 new belts, because as you can see, we were running out of iron, making that red science. It just eats it up. So I double the size of the iron, and I don't end up doubling the size of the coal production, I think, which probably will come back to bite me later, but I'm just going to leave it for now. It's pretty built up. The stone furnaces don't really use that much. Sorry about that. So yeah, just doing the basic furnace setup. So you've seen me do it like 5 or 6 times now. This is usually how I do my mining operation. I'll put 2 facing each other, 1 block apart for the transport belts, and then I'll put 1 block, I actually messed it up there, yeah, see me delete that, and then I put 1 block between them so I can put the power poles in. This isn't really necessary when you start getting substations, because they have a wider range angle, but as you can see on that bottom row, this isn't nearly efficient as it should be, and I go on to balance the belts here, and I was trying to figure out how to run that so it's even. And I continue putting the inserters onto everything. Had to go grab some more iron that we are completely out of right now. Alright, and I think I took a quick break there for a second to grab a drink or something. So grabbing our transport belts, as you saw, I already made 200 of them, so that's plenty to start with. Gun production, I forgot to set up a wood chest, and then I realized I put the chest in the wrong spot, like the goof that I am. Don't remember what I did here. This is where I start working on the green science production, or not green science, sorry, green circuits. You'll probably hear me mess that up at least 2 or 3 more times. I think I've already messed it up once or twice this video so far. So yeah, we're gonna start making green electronics here in a second. I was trying to figure out what would be my best setup for this. I use a couple different setups, honestly, and I never know which one I like the best. So your bottom row, you're gonna need 3 copper per 2 green electronic production. So I usually double that setup, so 6 copper and 4 green electronic setups, and then I have 3 factories feeding into each 2. So here I am trying to figure out the spacing and everything. It does end up being kind of a wide approach. I'm debating switching this into a bigger circle area because it would take a lot less room and be more efficient that I could put the copper all in one belt, and I could probably run a little bit less copper if I'm using a like tier 3 into tier 2 electronics. But I haven't figured that out yet. We'll probably get to that in a later episode. I usually halfway through the game I change up or double my green science production because it's never enough. I can just tell you now, you'll never have enough green science to go around. Everything uses green science, including the advanced science, or green science. I'm still saying green science. I am extremely sorry. Green electronics. Everything uses green electronics, but also everything does use green science, funnily enough. But no. Green electronics go into making red electronics or advanced circuits, and they also go into making processing units. They go into modules. They go into inserters. If there's something that you can think of, probably has green electronics in it, to be honest. So I'm just looking at this and I'm like, wait a second, I set up my belts wrong. So just trying to figure out how to do it again and then go back into it. I decide to move that down so that the belt can just come right over. Now we have our copper going into there, and then our iron will come up a little bit. Can't remember what I did here. Yeah, I went up, had to mine this rock, and I just came over on it. Me trying to figure out the spacing and stuff. Like, wait a second, it goes there. And then I did a whoops. Combine the belts. Okay, yeah. This is gonna be the final setup I figured out. I decided to run the iron on the outside because you only need 1 piece per factory, but I did decide anyways to put the 2 red grabbers on it. Now the green science, where I have a perfect spot for it, running it next to the steel and everything, so that actually didn't come out too bad. As you can see, steel comes up, then I had to go under, and then green science loops around. And done. Just gotta power it all up now. I do have to say again, I am sorry that my power poles look hideous awful. It's just, these early game ones are bad. Looks like I had a cut in the footage there. I think I was just waiting for the power to come back up. I continue making more factories, add another box for, no, actually I make a factory for stone walls because I'm like, oh wait, I'm gonna have to make a bunch of these next episode, might as well get it done now. So I start making stone walls. I have my guns made. I think I'm having ammo made at this point. I can't really remember. I think I might actually set that up next. Actually start seeing some biter bases on the outskirts due to those radars. Looks like to our west we actually have a pretty big one out there, so we'll probably be dealing with those fairly quickly, because in the 13 update, the biters do creep forward at a very, very high rate of speed, and it's not necessarily fun. I don't remember why I did this there. Oh, I doubled up the belt. I don't know why I didn't do it the other way, really, because that would have been more efficient, but guess I just decided to do it this way, so we're gonna go with it. Standing alone in the wilderness, one man and his machines, factories that stretch across deserts, and trees that suck up pollution. Welcome to Factorio. Dun dun dun. I think I forgot to do a cut in the video here, so I'm just kind of filling in a little bit. So there we go again, off, grabbing some green science. Next, going into it, just checking the researches, seeing what we need, realizing that we are out of red research, and definitely need the green research to start going. This is where I set up the piercing rounds. Took me a couple tries to do this. I fiddled with it for a little bit, mainly because I'm gonna want to expand this later, and this is kind of my temporary thing for a little while. Usually I have about 4 factories cranking out armor piercing bullets, so that I have a complete overage of everything bullets wise. You're gonna need them for tanks, cars, guns, you name it. Probably takes bullets too, in the military tree, unless it's lasers. I usually don't actually use lasers that much until really late game, when I'm expanding the walls a lot, and that's mainly because of the high power usage of lasers. Like, if we stuck with straight steam engines, there's no way we would be able to use lasers, just because their power use, that instant spike, is way too much. You would need an accumulator network on there at least, and usually I can't get you would have to have columns upon columns of steam engines to run my factory efficiently late game. So usually I end up switching over to solar with an accumulator setup. Taking down my mini stone production, got grenades going, got armor piercing going, so we're all set on that. That means I can just grab grenades now to clear out forest and not have to deal with anything. Start working on green science at this point. So green science takes inserters and transport belts. Both are pretty easy to make, but the inserters do require the green electronics. That's why I made them at the beginning of this episode, so we can start on our green science production. So at first I was thinking, I'll just grab green science off the belt kind of thing, and set up like this, and then I decided that that was not really the best idea. So me just messing with everything right now, trying to figure out the best setup and how I did this. So I decide to go with a 2. Did I go with a 2 setup? I think. Yeah, okay. So I fed the gears into the inserters and the transport belts. So this is where it kind of started getting a little bit squirrely on me. The belts get kind of funky at this point when I run them. I did end up running the gears into the inserters and transport belts, and running the transport belts and inserters on both sides up to the green science portion. So I run the iron, and then I realize I need to put both on one belt, so end up putting it back on that belt, and then I split off the green science from the main belt here, and it gets really squished. So I guess splitting the other way would not have worked properly, but got that split. I do notice now that I'm watching the recording that I left an extra belt there. Probably fix that later. I had a little break in the video, so Again, this is all over about me playing for about an hour and a half, so there's definitely breaks in between it. So go ahead and get all the inserters set up. I decide to feed them onto two opposing belts like this. That way they'll be split. And then I go ahead and set up my science factories. I think I did 4. Usually my 4 is about my go-to unless I'm using the circle setup, but then it's going to be 6. And that's usually because the 2 parts take about 6 intermediaries before they start running out and can't produce nearly as fast. But with green science, I usually go with 4. I don't know why, since in the end of the game I always run out of green science. It's just a thing I do. I mean, eventually you're gonna run out of research, and you just get to like follow a robot count, which is a repetitive science that you just research until you have nothing to research, and then at that point you can tear down that entire part of your factory and be creative with it, I guess. So I'm setting up the belts to feed in green science right now, all the while not paying any attention to my surroundings or anything of that nature. I don't remember. Yeah. So I was trying to figure out where the green science ran. So I run that belt way too far up. So fix that. And then I put our power poles down. Set that up as green science. Forget to set that transport belt up though, because I am extremely goofy. So it does look like we do have desert around us, which won't be good. I just start noticing that the inserters are moving a little slow, and I just took a look at our power and we have dropped to almost nothing. So I start rushing over there to see what's wrong. Looks like all of our boilers have run out of coal. The coal is just not being produced fast enough, so it picks them out, put it on the belt, because once we slow down, our miners slow down. When the miners slow down, then they don't mine as fast, and then when they don't mine as fast, you don't have any coal to put on your belt. So I try picking it back up real quick, and then is when I notice that we don't have enough power coming out of the 10 columns, and that's why it's crashed. Mostly due to the part that I put down too many radars and then added too many other things. The radars really kill everything. So I decided to rearrange the steam column a little bit. Actually end up taking that out, what probably helped me here is that I separated the power from the coal and to everything else right now. So for the time being, I was just running the coal miners off that power, which helped them kick it back into gear really quick. And then we had power drain. So basically at this point, I'm just going to go ahead and double my column up. That way I don't have to deal with this again for a little while. Running up here really quick to check on something. I think I take down the radars. Yeah, I went up, took down the radars, so that power for the time being would last, and then I noticed that we still don't have any power, so I'm like, okay, definitely need to set up the steam columns then. So I'm getting everything produced. Had to grab some iron stuff really quick so that I could get that knocked out. Standing in the middle of fields again, just something that I love to do while playing Factorio, I guess. I just get busy crafting and then focusing on other things, so get a little sidetracked when playing this game, especially when I'm playing for this long, about an hour and a half, 2 hours-ish. I can't remember the exact record time. Probably won't be doing this with many more episodes, because after this everything gets a little shorter. Just the basic setups and green science setups, they just take a while, so I thought I would do it mostly off camera, and then I decided to record it. So that's where we're at with this. So just getting the last steam column set up. It's it's a mirror of the previous one, so run those out. I did decide to put an extra pump on this since we were maxing out power. I didn't want to mess with it again, so I end up running another pump to it, messing up belts all along the way, burner inserters like usual, and then I decide that we definitely need to expand our coal production, so start chopping away at trees, forgetting that I have grenades and bullets and everything else back there. So this is gonna be a little bit just me chopping trees like, you know, the woodsman that I am. Now I will say that if you rapidly get rid of the trees, whoops, that was my alarm for recording, but if you do get rid of the trees, you will notice your pollution might start spiking, and that can be both a good and a bad thing. I mean, if you want fights to come to you and you want to go fight the biters, then sure, yeah, you can spike the pollution, but most of the time this early game you don't want to do that. 1 second. So yeah, I'm just clearing this out, expanding our coal production so that this does not happen again. I do not like power spirals, they are no fun. But yeah, you heard me mention power spiral in the first 2 episodes, and then what do? I start a power spiral. I was like, oh, why is it not working? Oh, wait, forgot to put the power poles. So with adding more steam engines, it means that it does require less coal per column because you're not running the steam engines to full efficiency, basically. I decide to cut the power to the main line so that I can feed power over to the coal engines, and that just makes it so that they start mining, and once they start going, then I add on the original power because I need it to focus on coal mining for right now. See how full the belt gets with full power, and once it's back up to full power, then I'll reconnect the belts. Alright, there we go. And then I realized that I had not connected the water yet. Surprise, surprise, I always do this. So go ahead and connect up the water, and then we are rolling and good to go. Alright, thank you for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe for more videos like this in the series. Thank you.